Hey everybody, how's it going? So today we're going to take a look at creating a track in Octatrack using stems. That's just another way of saying taking loops from elsewhere, that you create elsewhere, and bring them into Octatrack to really use the tools in there to bring the track into a different place. I really like this technique because I find that Octatrack is a great kind of like midway production tool. I don't find it's the best for beginning tracks, like programming drums, for instance. You got your kick, snare, closed hi-hat, open hi-hat, some other kind of hits. That's already 5 or 6 tracks taken up out of a total of 8 tracks that you have in there. And yeah, I guess you can kind of like parameter lock things, and you could bounce tracks down, but I just find that's like a little bit too much trouble. And I find using loops that you have elsewhere, bring them into the Octatrack, and you can really have a much more enjoyable experience in there. Just to give you a quick overview of the process that we're going to use, this is how it's going to work. We're going to start with Korg Gadget, where we have our loops. We're going to export that from Korg Gadget to AudioShare, which is another app, and we're going to normalize the loops in there. Then we're going to go from AudioShare to the laptop and then load the loops from the laptop directly into the Octatrack. I know that sounds like a lot of steps, but this is the process that I've found yields the best results. So let's take a look. So here is my Korg Gadget session. As you can see, I have 5 tracks. 3 of them are drums. 1 of them is kind of a drone, and 1 is kind of like chord changes. So the first thing you want to just take note of is your BPM. That's going to be really important when you bring these stems into the Octatrack. Okay, so let's just take a quick listen to what this track sounds like. So that's the basic vibe. All right, so if you want to bring this into the Octatrack, there's a couple different ways you could do it. You could simply just solo each of these scenes, each of the actual tracks themselves, and bring them, just sample them directly into the Octatrack. That's one way to go, definitely. But the way that I usually do it is using this export function here. If you'll see, if you hit export, it will give you, the ability to export things in a couple of different ways. You could export it directly to Ableton if you have that software. But the way that I usually do it is I use this thing called AudioShare. I am going to select each of these tracks individually and export them. So now we're in AudioShare. We've exported all the tracks from Korg Gadget into AudioShare. The track itself is called Radial Bell, and you can see on the left side I've got tracks, Radial Bell tracks 1 through 5 listed there, and I normalized the ones that I'd like to. So now it's time to get it over into the computer. The airdrop, in the airdrop area up here at top, I choose MacBook Air. That's my computer. It goes over, there's a little acceptance button, hit that, and then boom, shows up the top of my downloads folder. The tracks are just listed right there. They're ready to go. We've now loaded those stems into the Octatrack, and I've assigned them to the first 5 tracks as static machines. Next thing I want to do is create a slice grid for each of the tracks that have different parts. So if you remember back to the original track we were working with had 3 different scenes as a kind of a progression. So I remember that the first track was basically just a drone, so I'm not going to mess with that one. But the second, third, fourth, and fifth each had different kind of scenes. So what I'm going to do then is just go through each of them. Oops, yeah, go to slice, hit yes, and then create slice grid, and it asks how many slices you want to make, and I'm going to go down to just 3 slices. So we've created our slice grid. The next thing we want to do is go into each of the tracks and make sure slices is on. So what we do is we click the source button hit that twice, and you'll see at the top in the center, there's a slice toggle. You want to make sure that says on. And I'm just going to go through each of these and make sure if slices is on, and that will allow us to choose the correct slice in the pattern. Okay, so for pattern 1, what I've done is I've laid down a trig to play the first slice for those first 5 tracks. So I'm going to basically parameter lock each of these tracks so it plays the second slice. Slice 2, slice 2. Okay, then I'm going to go over to pattern 3 and do the same thing, but I'm going to enable it to play the third slice. So now what I have is these first three patterns, I should say, are the same now as the 3 scenes that were in Korg Gadget. Now it's like the fun can begin, because now that we have everything that's in there, we can basically start messing around with things to our heart's content. We can start adding effects, we can start kind of messing with trigs. For instance, let's say, okay, do then is go in here and just throw a little backwards. Put a little stutter in here maybe. Maybe we'll put a different slice in there and see how that sounds. Let's take this one, copy it, paste it there. I mean, from here you can really go any way that you want. Now that it's in the Octatrack and it's all at the same, correct BPM, you can manipulate things to your heart's content. You could add more audio, you could add more drums, you can manipulate things, you can do whatever you like and really use the Octatrack to its full extent. So I hope this proved useful. If you have any feedback, please put them in the comments below. I'm all ears. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe. Thanks for sticking around.